I watched Karoline Leavitt's press conference today, so you don't have to, and here's my overview. First of all, I want to say I think they might actually be watching my videos because she mentioned Biden 0 times. However, she did, in the 30 minutes she spoke, happen to call it a Democrat-led shutdown on 8 separate occasions. So she starts off by saying that Democrats are playing games with the shutdown and that they're intentionally doing this so that they can get illegal immigrants free healthcare. I just want to remind you that by law, illegal immigrants are ineligible for any federal funding. She also then goes on to talk about how mothers and children are going to be affected by this by not getting food assistance programs, which is hilarious again because these are the things that Republicans talk about taking away funding from all the time. And now she wants to pretend like they care because it's helpful to her politically. Even though Republicans control all 3 branches of government, she says that this is again on the Democrats, and the only way that it will reopen is if they get free healthcare for illegal immigrants. Now, I say illegal immigrants, she says illegal aliens every single time, but that is obviously very disrespectful, so I'm using the correct term, illegal immigrant. She also says that this would result in $200 billion in additional funding being spent on illegal immigrants over the next decade. I'm just going to remind you that Trump has already proposed increasing the military budget by over $110 billion a year, which is $1 trillion over a decade, you know? She claims this would result in more money being spent on illegal immigrants than it would on the elderly, disabled, and children. She also says that Democrats in 2025 refer illegal aliens first and Americans last. And then she says, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. Those last 2 are direct quotes. She says the funding bill that's been proposed is completely clean and nonpartisan. So even with the Republicans controlling all 3 branches of government, they're not able to get any of their agenda passed, apparently. She gets asked, is he calling like any senators to see if they'll maybe sway their vote in his direction? And she says, no, but he's basically just calling people on his side and they're in contact with the people on the Democrat side. So he's doing absolutely nothing to actually make this change and telling them that he's just completely unwilling to negotiate. She also says that now drug companies are lowering prices by 200, 300, even 100%. It is funny that she ends on 100% because that's the only one that makes any sense for even a possibility, which it should be in this country because we all deserve free healthcare because healthcare is a human right, but she doesn't believe that, of course. But she's saying the same thing that he says, where he says 12, 13, 1400%. She's saying that now, but just 200 or 300% because she doesn't want to sound quite as stupid as he sounds when he says something so incredibly stupid. She gets asked multiple times, who's going to be laid off if this shutdown continues? And she just keeps saying, we shouldn't even have to be talking about this. It's only the fault of the Democrats that we're here in the first place. And then she says that, but if it doesn't reopen, there will be layoffs and many people will suffer. I just got to say, she is very slippery. She's good at some things. She gets asked, is Trump considering overthrowing the Venezuelan government? And she says, I can't really expand on those things, but what I can tell you is that the Venezuelan government is illegitimate. She says that every side has agreed to the proposal that's been made between Israel and Palestine to end the conflict. And then she mentions the Arab countries that have agreed to it, the Muslim countries that have agreed to it, Israel having agreed to it. So she's saying everyone has agreed except for, obviously one of the combatants in the war. She gets asked about the Sunday deadline for Hamas to accept the proposal, and she says it was really just a deadline for them to acknowledge the proposal at all, and that basically the letter that they sent out on Friday was good enough to say that they are going to agree to it. Now, I just put in my notes that they said they will continue to lead, talking about Hamas here, and that they will not be doing anything about demilitarization. So I'm not sure how in any ways that matches the proposal that Trump put forward. She gets asked, in previous government shutdowns, there haven't had to been layoffs, just furloughs of government employees. So in this case, wouldn't it be the president's decision to lay people off? And she just says, nope, it's going to be Democrats' fault. And then she says that this administration has to be a good steward of the balance sheet while they're spending over $1 million a day to put National Guardsmen in American cities against American citizens. She must have been saying it a lot because I put in my notes, just keep saying these convos about layoffs would not be happening if not for Democrat-led shutdown. And then she says that a judge who said that you can't just put the National Guard in cities all willy-nilly just because you feel like it, that judge is untethered to reality and the law. She says that U.S. Code 12406 is the reason that Trump is justified to deploy the National Guard into these cities. I'm just going to point out that in 12406, it says specifically, orders for these purposes shall be issued through the governors of the states. Purposes of what, you might be asking? These are the 3 reasons for which you can deploy the National Guard. 1, the United States or any of the Commonwealths or possessions is invaded or in danger of invasion by a foreign nation. 2, there is a rebellion or danger of a rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. Or 3, the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. Those are the only 3 reasons, obviously none of which are happening in DC, in Portland, in Chicago. Literally none of those things are happening. But she's going to try and justify it. She says that for more than 100 nights, the ICE facility in Portland has been under siege from anarchists outside. She also then mentions the guillotine, which you guys in my comments confirmed to me was a real thing. And I just got to say, I'm really proud that you actually put that out there. And I'm also going to mention that outside of that ICE facility, I watched the videos too. And I saw people doing the cha-cha slide. It was a bunch of white people. How could I tell? They had no rhythm. And also the city of Portland is 67% white, which is much higher than the 57% that the United States is. Also regarding the riots in Portland, she says that many independent journalists have been involved in these riots and have been in there and witnessed the entire thing. And she said that she's spoken with some of them in the Oval Office, and they have provided really insightful information about these riots being led by Antifa. A reporter brings up that they just spoke to the police chief of Portland and that what the admin's saying and what the police chief are saying don't seem to match up at all. And then she says, you should be speaking to the people who actually live there. They spoke to the police chief. That is someone who lives there, for sure. And then she says that the issue with these protests is that they're loud and they're troubling for the people in the area. That's it. Not that it's a rebellion, which would be the thing that would be what she cited would have to be in order for it to actually be a reason for the president to deploy the National Guard. But again, it's all just contradictions with her because she lies so much. She just can't keep the truth straight. She gets asked why the National Guard is still in DC when they're claiming that all crime has been reduced and it's been beautified and all that. And she says it's because the DC mayor invited them in. So that's why we're still spending $1 million a day for them to just sit around the city and pick up trash. That makes total sense. She also says that it's a shame that some mayors are refusing to allow the military to just be put against their own people. Crazy how that works. And then she says that they're only doing that because they don't like Trump. At one point, she just reads some headline and is like, look at this completely unbiased headline. And then another person asks her a question like, hey, that doesn't really match with the reality. And she's like, the people should be worried about. And then she holds up the piece of paper again, things like this. And it's just a piece of paper with a headline saying that like the protests are out of control or something when they're clearly not. She proposes a question, but doesn't allow anyone to answer. So I'll go ahead and read you the question and then give you the answer that I would say. She says, why should citizens be concerned that the administration is putting military to patrol American streets? Well, mostly because that's not their job and that's what dictators do, would be my answer had she given me an opportunity or had you guys gotten me enough media attention that I could get into the press pool, which would be fantastic, by the way. As if to answer my question, she says, the president isn't trying to do anything bad. He just wants to help these Democrat mayors who have been completely ineffective at ending the crime on their streets. She then also says that the murder rate in DC has declined significantly, which is a vast difference from what Trump says, which is there have been no murders since the National Guard came in. She says they're going to look into the financial backing of Antifa. Antifa, again, is just an idea, anti-fascist or anti-fascism. So when they call that terroristic, they're openly calling themselves fascists. So just so you know, Karoline Leavitt, Donald Trump, Kash Patel, they're all fascists by their own declaration. Now, she says that looking into this financial backing of these groups as something that the government is never done before, except for in every RICO case that has ever happened ever, you know, like all of them. And finally, she says, and I swear this is hilarious because she obviously didn't watch my video from last week. She says that the protesters in Portland are organized anarchy. I called her out last week multiple times for not understanding the definition of the word anarchy, and her calling the protesters in Portland organized anarchy could not be a more clear example of how incredibly correct I was on that. That's the end of the content, but I have some people to thank. This person says, I love your content from Katarina M. They sent another Xbox controller. Thank you for that. It will get plenty of use. My wife and I have been playing Borderlands 4, just came out, so we've been playing a lot of that. It's been great. This person says, I hope this tea energizes you and keeps you going on the great breakdowns you give to everyone on TikTok. At Farklefats from Renee S. And they sent me a mango black tea. I've been really into my tea lately. I haven't been drinking coffee. I've been drinking the tea to stay energized, and I love it. This person, Carol B, sent gift cards. Thank you, Carol B. Gift cards are an option if you want to do it. I had to put physical ones on there because like doing the E-ones required you to have an email address, but I also on my list, I did put an email address you can use if you do want to send me that. This person says, my family enjoys this game. If you haven't tried Terraforming Mars or Dominion, those are also great games. Enjoy. You deserve some fun. Best from Renee S. This is a different Renee. It is a different Renee S, just so you know. I have played Terraforming Mars. They sent a game called Brass. I'm really excited to play it. And finally, this person says, enjoy your gift from Bobby B. They sent a book, The New Jim Crow. We are right about to hit 10 minutes now. Thank you guys for the gifts. Thank you everyone who sticks around and watches. Thank you 10%ers who have made it this far. This was just a wild one. She's a crazy woman who can't do anything but lie, and it makes her contradict herself all over the place, and it's quite hilarious.